Hi, my name's Richard Parnell. I'm president of GRSA International and I'm also a GRSA Grandmaster Stringer. Today it's my pleasure to present the evolution of the head 3-in-1 machine, which now becomes 4-in-1. Now, the added feature, which obviously up until now we've had static weight, static balance, swing weight. Now we have something added called twist weight. So let's have a look at the machine and see exactly what it brings to us. So first of all, let's take off the protective cover, which is normally used to transport the machine and protect all the different parts. So if we take this off, which normally is screwed down, so let's put this to one side, and now let's look at the different features. Here we have everything that we need to customize a racket. Here we actually have the total static weight, which is basically it's done through two balances here and here. So you have the racket or the paddle, whichever racket it is laid down and weighed, and you actually have, it gives you the weight, the static weight and the static balance. Once we have that, then we have the swing weight, which again comes from this patented clamp here. So we can use it as the usual swing weight, which moves this way, and the racket is coming out, or the paddle, whichever sport we're doing it for, comes out this way. Or we can use it for the twist weight, where the racket goes in this way and then twists that way. We also have a balance here, a scale, which is totally removable, which means that if we need to weigh the lead, whatever we need to do, we can actually separate it out and then make the adjustments that we need. So basically what we have here is everything needed to look after tennis, squash, pickleball and paddle. It gives all of those parameters, which then mean that we can customize and personalize whichever racket to the desired specs. Let's have a look at this 4-in-1 machine and let's see how we can customize or take the specs of a tennis racket. So here we have a 27-inch racket, 68.5 centimeters. First thing we need to do is measure its static weight and static balance. Let's place it here against the end so that we have the weight here and here. Now this is giving us to 0.1, 271.9 grams and 328.4 millimeters balance. Now the reason why this part has moved away from the grip is so that it doesn't affect in any way the weight or the balance. So it is as exact as it gets. So now that we've actually looked at the total weight, the total static weight, total static balance, we can now look at the dynamic part, which is the dynamic mass positioning. So let's look at inertia. This we close down, make sure that it's straight, and then here we have 263.8. Now you can actually see, if you know the 3-in-1 machine from head, up until now swing weight has been measured in 0.5, which was already good. Now we're going to 0.1. So this swing weight is 263.8. You can't get any more exact than that. So we have that. Now let's have a look at the new, what is twist weight, which is the resistance to torsion. So we place the racket in. Again, as I mentioned, this is a patented clamp, which gives us the twist weight, which is 14.4. Anything between 10 and 15 is normal. The higher it is, normally it would be more stable. So here we've actually taken all the specs of this racket, and we've worked out, well, we know what weight it is, we know what, or static weight, we know what static balance it is, Anything we want to do with it, we can now change, and we can personalize it to the player and how they need, or if they want more power, we can increase the swing weight. If they want a slightly more stable head, then we can work with twist weight, which is the new, which changes it from the 3-in-1 to the 4-in-1. We have the twist weight. So now let's do a little experiment. Let's see what the difference is if we add 1 gram of lead, and instead of actually working with lead and sticking lead on different parts, what I tend to like to do is actually use blue tack, which is, I have a big ball of blue tack which I just take off grams, and then I can place them in different parts. So let's take a 1 gram and let's have a look and see if we put it just on this side here. So up until now we had a twist weight of 14.4. Let's see the difference that that 1 gram will actually make. $14.3. Now let's have a look at swing weight. Let's actually, on the swing weight, let's move it up to the tip, which normally the swing weight is increased by 3 points by using 1 gram. Now the 1 gram, if you put it here, it's about 1 point, here it'll be about 2 points, here it'll be 3 points. So before we had 263.8. And now we have 267.2. So you can see that just with that little bit of difference, we've already altered how the racket will play, because depending on how you hit the ball, then the higher swing weight will normally give you more power. So as a little example, you can see this is just 1 gram of blue tack, which I would then replace with either 1/2 inch lead tape or 1/4 inch lead tape, and then we would either add that in different parts of the frame to actually make it feel and play how the player wants. So that's basically how we would look at personalizing a racket for a specific player. Let's have a look at the head 4-in-1 machine as it relates to another racket sport, squash. So here we have a squash racket. First thing that we can do is work out its static weight and static balance. So we just place it on the machine up against the piece here, and then it's actually on these two bars which weigh the static weight and the static balance. You'll notice that this piece has moved away so that there's no resistance at all, not touching, which would actually throw off the stats. So here we have this racket strung 161.6 grams and a balance of 381 millimeters. Now on this we can also take the inertia, which goes into this patented clamp, which works for both swing weight, swing weight is the dynamic distribution of weight. So the swing weight we have 188.8. With this machine you'll notice that with a 3-in-1 before it was 0.5 of a swing weight, this one goes to 0.1, so it's the most exact there is. And now let's look at twist weight. So it's the same clamping system, and we just look at what we're going to get, which is 6.5. Normally in other sports it's higher. Obviously with squash it's slightly lower, so this is 6.5. So here we have all the details that we need to then customize this racket for a player. Although customizing in squash isn't as common as it is in other sports, it can definitely be used to make a racket head more stable, or change the actual swing weight and how the racket moves. So let's take, as an example, let's just add 1 gram of weight. I'm using blue tack so as I don't waste lead tape. So let's just add 1 gram at 3 and 9, and let's see what it does to the twist weight. We were at 6.5. So now it's at 6.8, so just 1 gram at 3 and 9 has already started changing the specs. So now let's move this and move it up to the tip and see how much this 1 gram affects the swing weight. So let's place it again in the clamping system. So we were at 188.8. And now we're at 192.7, so it's basically 3 points. Now, once we've actually achieved or we've seen what we want to do with the racket, then we'll actually change and replace this with lead, whether it's 1 gram, 2 grams, whatever it is. For that, we have a little scale here, which is totally movable. You can move it, put it to one side, so you can actually weigh the lead and work with it. Let's just make sure that this is 1 gram. And it is exactly 1 gram. So there we have an absolute precision, whether it's on the scale or on the actual machine. So once we have this racket and we know what we want to do with it, then we would take our lead tape, whether it's 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch, and then we would put it on the frame in different parts, so to actually get the desired effects. If we want to make it slightly more head heavy, head light, raise the swing weight, raise the twist weight, then we can do that with lead, and that's all we need to do with a squash racket. Now let's look at something a little bit different. Let's have a look at a paddle racket and how we can customize it by taking its specs and then see how we can actually change it and personalize it to whoever it is. So the first thing we need to do is work out its static weight and static balance. So here, as you can see, we actually have this part which normally is for tennis. Now we bring it across so that it takes into account the difference in length of the paddle racket. We put the loop, the loop that's on the handle through, so that it's out of the way, but it's still taken into account for the weight. We have it on the 2 bars. So this paddle racket is 361.7 grams, and the balance point is 266.1. Now these are again to 0.7 to 0.1 of whether it's in grams in static weight or 0.1 millimeters in static balance. So here we have the information that we need. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the inertia. So let's put this through here, again into this patented clamp system, and work out the inertia, which is 157.9. Let's just do it again to make sure. Yep, 157.9. And here what we're going to do is we're going to look at the twist weight as well. So the stability of the paddle. Which is 18.6. So now we have all the details of the paddle as it is at the moment, which means that if we decide we want to change it and personalize it to someone, we just need to decide how much weight we want to add and where we're going to add it. So let's have a look at adding 1 gram, and let's just add it at the, well, let's add it on the side and see how much twist weight that's actually going to it's going to add. That's actually the resistance, the dynamic resistance to torsion. So let's have a look. We were at 18.6. actually hasn't changed. So let's move it and let's see if this actually decreases it. 18.2. Let's take it off again and redo it. .2, so it's not actually affecting it too much, it's not that far away. So now let's have a look at the inertia and see how that's affected by adding 1 gram. Which we were at 157.9. That's 159.3, so it has actually affected it. And here all we're talking about is 1 gram. Now obviously this gram isn't a lot when you look at the actual static weight of 361, so 1 gram, but it still makes a difference. And that is what we have this scale here, which is totally removable, so we can use it to weigh whatever we need. Here I'm using blue tack to be able to move it around without wasting lead, but normally what I would do is once I've got the specs that I want using the blue tack, I'll then use either 1/2 inch lead or 1/4 inch lead to add onto the sides, and I already have a whole load that is pre-cut to 1 gram pieces, and we can add this whether it's on the side, at the tip, wherever we want. We can add it in the throat, we can add it underneath the handle, so we can actually change the balance of how it moves. So that's how we would customize a racket and how we take all of the specs and we can work with them from the 4-in-1 machine. Today we're going to look at something a little bit different, which is pickleball and the 4-in-1 machine. How we can use it to take all the parameters, the details of this racket, and then work out what we want to do with it. So the first thing we need to do is get the machine prepared. So as it's a shorter racket, then the machine, we bring this over to take into account that it is a shorter racket. And here we're going to lay it on the 2 bars, which is going to give us the static weight and the static balance to 0.1 of a gram and 0.1 of a millimeter, which is the most exact that there is. So here we have, this paddle is 227.8 grams and the balance point is 226.4 millimeters. So once we have, those are the static details, then what we can do is then go to the dynamic, which is swing weight, which is pretty much that movement. So now we go into this patented clamp system, which is unique to this machine, and then we work out the inertia. Which is 78.2. Now the next thing we do is we actually use the parameter, which is the new one, which changes the 3-in-1 to the 4-in-1, which is twist weight, which is the resistance to torsion. So here we close it in and measure it. So here we are 8.5 on twist weight. So with this, as there's different paddles of different lengths, it's very difficult to use static balance to work out whether it's head light, head heavy. It's going to depend on the length of the length and width of the paddle. But here, these can be perfectly customized so that we can actually work out what we want to give the player. So we have all of the details. Once we have all the details that we've just taken, we can then work out what we want to do with them. Here I'm using 1 gram, so let's have a look and see what we can do with twist weight. And let's put 1 gram on the 3 and 9 and see what change that actually does to the parameters. We were at 8.5, let's see if it changes it at all. 8.7, so it has changed it. Now let's have a look at inertia, which is the same way that twist weight is that side, swing weight is the other one. So let's put this at the tip, which normally should add about 3 swing weight points. Let's have a look and see what it goes. So we were at 78.2. Let's see what it's adding. 78.9. So it's not the same as with other sports, it doesn't add as much, but that's because it's actually shorter. So here, 1 gram on this 227.8 gram pickleball racket or bat is actually adding a very little bit on the swing weight. So once we have this, then we also, on the machine, we have this scale which we can use to work out whatever lead we need to use. As you can see, I've been using blue tack. So instead of blue tack, what we can do is we can use either 1/2 inch lead or 1/4 inch lead to use on the paddle. I already have them cut off in 1 gram strips, which can be stuck on the side. Well, basically it can be put wherever we want. If we want to put it on the sides, we're going to get it so it's slightly more stable. On the tip, so we increase swing weight. If we want to put it underneath the handle, then we'll change the balance slightly, so it'll make it slightly head light. And we can also add the weight, and if we add it under the handle, we're not actually changing anything to do with how the paddle, the ball's going to come off the paddle. But if we add more on the inertia, if we increase inertia, we're going to add power as well. So quite a lot we can do, and although it's quite a new sport, it can definitely be used and customized to each person.